Hello out there all, we're back. We're getting back into the swing of things after getting married, and as you can see there's a new little backdrop and setup. I'm trying a new rig over here. We're doing a few different things for this video just to try it out, and I figured what better place to start than to have a little bit of a word on Melodic Rock Fest and the debacle that it's turned into. Just want to say that, you know, my intent is not to bury or slam anyone. This is just my own genuine thoughts on the whole thing. While I'm going to try and stay as positive as I can, there are some things that I think do need to be said about it all. But first off, before I get stuck in all that, I want to say that festivals are damn hard to put together, and anyone that's ever tried to put a festival together will be able to vouch for that. We've tried our own ones. It's not easy at all. So credit we're due for trying, and they swung for the fences. It's just that it's not really worked out that well. Now, for those with long memories, a while ago we had a touring debacle that involved Quite Right, LA Guns and Warrant. I think that was by Impact Entertainment or something. I forget what it was now. And then we had Soundwave, which was not too long ago. That completely fell apart in a very public fashion. And now we have this one, which is probably the worst of the lot. You know, from my side of things, bear in mind, it's just my point of view here. Personally, I'm a little bit embarrassed because of our 2-hour special we did on it. We filmed that episode for TV weeks before all this was going on. We gave it to the network 2 weeks before air date because Jodie and I were heading interstate to get married, and so I needed to get that one done. So it's a bit of a shame that it's all turned out this way, because Buster went asked to get that one done, and then, you know, you start seeing the wheels fall off this thing right before the episode goes to air, like 2 days before it was when Paul Lane pulled out. And then it just has descended and gotten worse ever since then. So whatever. We did it because it was going to be a really cool event. We thought it'd be a cool episode to do something different on, and it just hasn't worked out as planned for anyone, I don't think. Even this morning, another band has pulled out of the event that's supposed to be happening tomorrow as I do this. And all the reasons given by the bands for doing this are pretty unified, which is interesting, and it's also damning in its own little way. I am thinking about doing a bit of a longer piece on this down the line, so if you'd like to see something more in-depth than just my thoughts on this, then let me know. And if there's anyone out there involved in this, be it the promoters, the fans, the bands, whatever, that wants to have their say on the record, then by all means, get in touch and we'll look into it. As I said before, my biggest concern in all this stuff with Melodic Rock Fest is how much it's going to impact the faith in our industry over here as a general rule. We all want to see the bands we love come out and play here, and it's hard enough to get to Australia as it is. When things like this happen, it really hurts the scene overall because it destroys consumer faith, artist faith, all this stuff. It just destroys everything. And I know that our scene is strong and resilient, it always bounces back and so forth, and I'm sure it will this time again too, but whenever one of these things happens, just takes everyone a step back, which is really painful to watch. It's already hard enough in this country. First and foremost, though, for mine, the members of the paying public have been royally fucked over by this whole event. For the money being paid from the outset, this has not brought value to those customers. This was an expensive festival to begin with. I think it cost a lot more ultimately than download would cost, and this is a much more niche market. Several people were coming from interstate, from overseas as well. There are people out there that we know have invested hundreds, if not thousands of dollars into this, you know, what would have been a really awesome experience for them, only to have it just completely fall apart to the point where, you know, they had meet and greets planned, and that's supposed to be what no one knows what's happening with that as we do this now. It's been reduced, instead of being a massive 3-day festival and all that sort of stuff with all these side shows, it's a few side shows with a 1-day event and the meet and greets. No one even knows what's happening with that at all. And the 1-day event for tomorrow, as of this morning, as I film this, has lost another one of its broadcasts. Another band has pulled out, and that's not even been addressed by the event promoters. So this is bad. Bands from overseas and here at home have all been screwed over as well because, you know, yes, there's talk of some of the international bands being paid up to $25,000 in guarantees. And then the band's pulled out and not given any of the money back. But I personally don't really have a problem with that. Anytime you want bands, they're going to say what their fees are, what their requirements are, and all that sort of stuff. If you're a promoter, you want to bring them out, you can accept, decline, or try and renegotiate the terms as much as you can. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is that the risk lies with the promoter and not with the artist, and that's the game, that's the gamble. The trouble for the bands on this one is that they feel they've been taken for a ride, had their name used for promotional purposes on an event that's just been poorly organised. And they've also, you know, allocated these dates to come to Australia and do this thing, and there are probably more lucrative, easier jobs or gigs to get overseas where they're based as opposed to coming here to do this. So the money for me doesn't really enter into it if they paid their guarantees or not, or whatever you want to say. If they're not giving it back, then I actually have no problem with that, because there's a lot going on with this, and there's also costs that have come out of that already too. So it's all a bit stupid. Now, on the statement side of things from all the bands, from the international side, it's all pretty uniform statements. It's hard to get all these bands to say the same things at the same time. As the saying goes, where there's smoke, there's a bit of fire, generally speaking. They're saying things like lack of visas, lack of funds, lack of communication, clarity, and general organisation. Even the venue pulled the pin on the whole thing on the week of the event, which is extremely rare. I can't even recall another time when that has happened. And when it comes to the local bands, they had absolutely no idea at all what was going on once things started to go pear-shaped. Trying to find out answers on their own, getting nothing from the organisers, ultimately feeling like they needed to pull out of the event just to save something out of it, which is a big shame, because they would have had a chance to play to more people and in turn hopefully gain some new fans out of the experience as well. So the bands and the punters have all been really fucked around, which leaves me to come down to the organisers, which was where I think this has gone really wrong. No one's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. That's all a given. I've made mistakes on our own events in the past, all of them, I'm sure of that. So it's not easy to do these things. It's ambitious and difficult, especially one off like this, which is a 3-day event with a very niche market. If it had come off, we'd all be singing its praises and going, hallelujah, this is fantastic. But it's fallen apart in a big way. And for me, the biggest failure in all this is the one of communication, or lack of it. For the bands and the venue to be forced into making decisions on their own and stipulate they're doing so due to not knowing what the hell is going on is a very bad look. For the public who have paid tickets to be completely left in the dark is even worse. I've never seen anything like this, the way it's played out. When people are left in the dark, punters left in the dark, trying to decide if they need to cancel their flights and cancel their accommodation on the final day of the deadline for them to get their money back on those two fronts alone, without any response from the promoters, is fucking deplorable. That's not good enough. The absolute bottom of the barrel for me, though, is that when at least one of the promoters involved in this event makes the time to feud online in public with disgruntled punters from previous events that he's organised, when instead of addressing the actual issue at hand, and when there's questions being directly asked to that promoter saying, hey, where is this, what's happening, so we can make our plans, instead of answering those questions, he's engaging with certain punters from previous events that there's a track record, things have not gone smoothly. To feud instead of answer the problems, your priorities are completely fucking wrong, and that makes the whole thing worse, and this is a deplorable mess. In all of that, I know things are stressful and all sort of stuff, but you've got to just, people's money is at stake here. Time and money is at stake, and reputations are on the line and stuff, and you want to do that instead of actually fixing the problem. That's not good enough. In all this, I also feel really bad for Andrew McNeese, who started Melodic Rock Fest. He's got Melodic Rock Records, I think it is as well, and stuff. This is his legacy that has been shat on. A great big steaming shit has been dumped on something that he worked tirelessly on for years and years and years and built it up. People have been questioning him, asking him what's going on. He's had no idea, because he's gotten the same answers as the bands and the punters and all that sort of stuff, while his name was attached to it because he sold it prior to this. Now, these guys that run Melodic Rock Fest now have come in, bought the name because they know it's going to be easier for them to get what they want out of it instead of trying to build something new from the ground up. And that's fair enough, that's business and whatever else. To do that with obvious reasons, and then to just handle it the way you have. If I was Andrew, I'd be ropeable. If it was my brand, I'd be wanting to kill people. I'm sure there's a lot more of this to play out. For now, my simple short-term hope is that those who still attend feel like they get their money's worth, and if you don't feel like that, I hope you get refunded in full. I think the fans deserve at least that much. I do hope, honestly, that the remaining shows are a complete success. I want the people that have still invested their time, money into this to at least have a good time, to feel like they've got some good out of this in the end. And for all of that, I don't think anyone actually entered into this with negative intentions. I don't think anyone came out with a big rip-off plan in mind. This isn't some sort of Ponzi scheme. There's a track record with certain individuals, and yes, fine, okay, that's what it is. But I don't think this was a negatively intended purpose. I think people tried to do the right thing, had their hearts in the right places. I think that's been a pretty common theme overall, but this has just fallen apart in the world's most spectacular way, and the people involved have not known how to handle it at all. in the longer term hope side of things, I hope this hasn't harmed our industry and the way it's viewed from abroad. I hope that another promoter can bring out the bands for these fans to enjoy. I hope the bands will look to come to Australia again. I hope that the punters can have some faith in time with these acts. And I think everyone knows that it's not the bands, it's not the punters' fault. There's a middleman which just fucked it up, and I hope that in the meantime, everyone, like in the future, will be able to see past that and make future events hopefully a success, but time will tell on that regard. I'd really hate for this to put off, punters and bands from doing things in this country in the future. I don't think it will have a massive long-term effect, but it will set us back a few years at least, I think, when it comes to this sort of music. And the problem is that the more that we have these things happen on the back of Soundwave especially, the harder it is to get new things off the ground, the harder it is to get consumer confidence, the harder it is to get any sort of financial backing from business investorship and sponsors and all sort of stuff. You're not going to get angel investors helping out these festivals out here if this is the sort of stuff that goes on. So this actually hurts everyone, not just the people involved in this one little niche market. This involves everything here, no matter what, pop, metal, rock, whatever, doesn't matter. This hurts everyone. Need to knock this shit on the head. I really feel bad about the way this has played out for the punters and the bands and that involved in this. It's not a huge skin off our nose. We did an episode, big deal, but I just feel like we should at least address it and have a conversation. So, please do get involved and give us your comments on this. I think, bottom line, this is bad for everyone. And there's not a lot of good that comes out of this in the short term. It's going to take a good few years to get beyond this. But that's it. Like I said, this is my thoughts on it. So again, if anyone wants to go on the record, be it fans, the bands, the promoters, I'm happy to chat. So get on the record, come down and we'll have a chat and we'll see what we can work out and we'll see where things go from there. If not, well then the comments will be what the comments are below. And that note, give us your thoughts out there in general. As always, we always want your comments and feedback. That's why we do these things. So please let us know what you think of this and if you've been paying attention to it and what you think could have or should have been done a lot better than the way it was. And again, if you're still going, I hope you have a fantastic time going to Melodic Rock Fest or what's left of it in Australia in 2020. But that's it for now. I'll go. We'll have another video again in the very near future. Until then, as always, drink up, rock on.